I just started crying and I was like, I can't die and not be Muslim. So my name is Elwyn and I reverted on the 6th of September 2024. I grew up Christian. My whole family is Christian. My granddad was actually a vicar. When I grew up a little bit and I was in high school and stuff, I kind of came away from religion a little bit more and wasn't really sure what I believed. I kind of explored. I did religious studies in school actually, but we did more looking into philosophy and Buddhism and things like that. Yeah, I kind of went around the block with it and looked into a few different things before I reverted to Islam. I always had a bit of background knowledge about Islam. I wasn't completely kind of naive to it, but I never knew a lot about it, obviously growing up Christian. And then I met some friends in work who were Muslim and they kind of introduced me to the religion. I started learning a little bit about it. I kept having people who are Muslim come into my life and just kind of, it kept entering my life in different ways and I was like, okay, this is starting to get a bit suspicious. So I basically just started looking into it, bought a Qur'an, started reading. My TikTok, social media all became about Islam. And one of the things that actually really drew me to Islam was actually the hijab and seeing women walking around in a abaya and hijab. And I just thought, mashallah, I just thought that they had this like different kind of beauty where like your soul like literally shines through your face that I hadn't seen before. And I definitely had some misconceptions before looking into Islam about kind of what modesty was in Islam. And then when I looked into it, then I realized how beautiful the concept actually was, and I was like, okay, this is actually something that I really agree with and that I think is really beautiful. And basically I just kept looking into it for a really long time. And then I was in Morocco and I was just chilling on the rooftop and I was like, okay, hang on. And I saw a TikTok about the Day of Judgment and just talking about some of the signs of it, and I just started crying and I was like, I can't die and not be Muslim. I got home a couple of days later and got my friends to call the mosque and I went and took my shahada and that was it. Yeah, I'm not even crying, but my eye is just continuously watering. It was actually a Friday, it was Jummah. Went and actually did Jummah first and kind of just took part in it. Then went downstairs, took my shahada. It was a little bit surreal, but I think for a long time I knew that day was coming. So it was just almost a bit of relief and just happiness. I was just happy. So Sisterhood Central is essentially just a community for sisters that I created that is just a safe space to support Muslim sisters, specifically reverts, without any judgment. It's for everyone, but I just wanted to start off by making it a space for reverts just because I feel like that space hasn't been filled yet. I wanted to kind of target that audience first. I really want to be able to provide that kind of sister to sister, just being there for you, literally. So yeah, I'm super excited for this first event. It's 26th of May in Birmingham, and inshallah there's going to be many more in the future as well. So I'd actually been learning Arabic for about a year before that, just on Duolingo. And in terms of praying, I used the Namaz app. So I would just pretty much read off my phone for every prayer until I slowly would start to put it down and then put it down even more as I learned a bit more each time. It's just very much like a day-by-day learning process. I always say that Islam is a journey and not a destination. I kind of also introduced this concept of sustainability, of wanting to be a sustainable Muslim. So I have heard stories of some reverts kind of completely changing their way of life immediately, and then they become super overwhelmed. They haven't actually kind of, I guess, processed the religion and the changes that they're making. And then they're kind of like, wait, hang on, like, I don't even know what's just happened. This is too much for me. And then they kind of stray away from the religion a little bit. So something that's super important to me is making the way that you learn about Islam sustainable so that you can continuously learn about it and that you don't end up straying away from it in the future. It can be really, really difficult to kind of decipher information out there, and there's so many different things and opinions depending on schools and things like that. So that is another reason why I wanted to create the sisterhood group, so that I was able to break down concepts in the simplest way possible. Obviously, I'm not able to do that about loads and loads of things because I don't yet have the knowledge, but the things that I do know, I will just break it down in the most simple way that I possibly can so that sisters are able to understand it and learn about it. When I was first learning about Islam, I hid it quite a bit. I was initially very nervous about telling any of my family just because I had no idea what they would think. With my family are lovely. They're lovely, lovely people. But with them being Christian, I just wasn't sure how they would feel and react to it. I was open about the fact that I went to a few Islamic lectures. They knew I had Muslim friends. I wasn't, hiding it to that extent. But I just wasn't super open and talking about how much I was looking into it. Until one day I actually was in the car with my sister, and I'd kind of been thinking about it for a bit, and I started speaking to her and I was like, I'm not gonna lie to you. And I started speaking and she was like, you want to revert? And I was like, yeah. And that was a big relief off my shoulders, just at least telling someone. So she was the first person that I told. Alhamdulillah, she had a lovely reaction and was just kind of like, obviously I'll support you, whatever you want to do. And I didn't tell anyone else in my family until I was literally kind of like, okay, I'm going to revert now, I'm ready for it. And they had a much better reaction than I thought they would. Alhamdulillah, I'm very, very blessed and lucky. And I think my mum's reaction is actually such an important reaction because I feel like her reaction could really help other parents in a similar position of trying to accept their child becoming Muslim. Because she's religious, her perspective was, she's just happy for me that I have found God. She was kind of like, maybe it's upsetting for me that it's not exactly the same as me, but I'm just happy for you that you found something that you believe in that makes you happy and that, you can work towards. And that was her main comment. She did have some questions and, she was kind of like, are you sure? And wanting to know a little bit more about Islam. And, when I opened up to her and I started telling her a few things about Islam, I think I helped get rid of any misconceptions that she had. And she's still learning. She still asks me questions and I just fill her in. And my nan, I was quite nervous about telling. Again, she's Christian and we're both strong opinioned people. So I was a bit more nervous about that. But she had a similar reaction and she was just kind of like, you do you. And actually recently, she actually told me, she said, you becoming Muslim and embracing the religion has helped me be more open-minded to it and has kind of opened me up to being less judgmental or prejudiced and, made me actually be kinder and more thoughtful towards other Muslims. And I was like, okay, this is what we're talking about. So yeah, alhamdulillah, I'm very blessed. I want to get across a message to the parents and the family and the friends of sisters, of reverts, that a lot of the prejudice and the misconceptions that you may have aren't actually Islam. If you actually looked into Islam yourself, the core values at the heart of it, you would actually find that it is beautiful and it doesn't condone any of the negative things that you see. And I think that's a massive important thing. Some sisters will ask me, how do I tell my family? And I think it's difficult for me to be like this, and this, because it's such a personal thing. I don't know your family. You know what your family is like. You know their characteristics. You know how they respond to things that they don't like, potentially. And I think you kind of need to gauge that for yourself about the best way to approach. It may just be telling them immediately. It may be like, okay, I'm going to take it step by step. I'm going to give a few hints. I think you need to kind of explore that route. And I know for some sisters, it's actually just not possible for them to tell their family. And that's just, I would never want a sister to be in that position. I think it's just awful. And for those sisters, that's why I want to be able to provide a community for them so that they do have people in support. For the people that, they kind of can tell their family, but their family aren't as accepting, they're not really sure about it. I think introducing your family to the beautiful bits of Islam that captures your attention, the things that made you want to become Muslim, sharing those things with your family. If you can back it up with points and facts and verses from the Qur'an, then do that. But if you can share the beautiful elements of Islam that made you want to revert, then I think they can start to kind of see the beautiful side to Islam and the side that they may have not seen. I think just showing them what Islam is and what it can do for you is probably the best, like, physical way, maybe just physically showing, is honestly the best way to go about it. I think wearing hijab is such a beautiful and amazing thing, but it has to come from you. So it needs to be a choice that you make for yourself for the right reasons. And obviously one that's for Allah. For me, wearing hijab is one of the things that stood out for me. Modesty in general is such an important concept, but I can truly, truly say, as someone who used to not dress as modestly and obviously not wear hijab, since dressing modestly and wearing hijab, I have never been more confident. I have never been more accepting of myself. And it is such a beautiful idea to be able to keep your beauty for yourself and, you know, eventually, inshallah, your husband, but most importantly for yourself. I always say as well to the sisters, if there's one thing that you can start with, let it be prayer. If I had been aware and knew of obviously your mat, that would have helped me to learn to pray so much quicker, but I wasn't aware of it at that time. If your salah is disconnected and you're not praying, then everything else is disconnected and you don't feel as close to the religion. Prayer is honestly the most important thing, and the thing that I would always say to start with as a Muslim, as a Riva, is focus on your prayer first, and obviously your prayer mat allows people to do that immediately.
الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم سبحان ربي العظيم سبحان ربي العظيم سمع الله لمن حمده ربنا لك الحمد الله أكبر